everyone. We are in week 4 and this is video 4.2. The title of this particular video is It's Complicated. And the topics we're dealing with in this video, we're talking about Paulo Freire, conscientization, and introducing PBL scenario number 2. So during week 4 in this course, we transition from consideration of our own identity and social identity, and we consider next the other, or how people can act toward the others. So some of the topics that we'll be dealing with in this next group of classes will be prejudice, discrimination, oppression, conscientization, and equity and social justice. So just to go back and recap probably the video that you just watched, video 4.1, Daphne was talking about prejudice and defining it as a prejudging of others that's based on a stereotype or an assumption. Prejudice and bias grew in Western society historically through a process known as colonialism. And this is where English became the preferred language and white became a preferred color, and European became had an upper status or a higher status in society. So a second term that was defined in video 4-1 was discrimination. And Daphne talked about this as an unjust treatment of categories of people. So people that fell within this category were unjustly treated because of their characteristics. And a third definition was oppression. And Daphne defined this as a dynamic or as a relationship where a dominant group benefits from the oppression of a subordinated group. So you were asked this week to investigate some videos called What Would You Do? So hopefully over the past week you have been viewing What Would You Do videos featuring examples of prejudice, discrimination, and oppression. Choose one of the videos, go back and view it again, and try to determine if you can identify within the video the prejudice, the discrimination, and the oppression that's happening in the video. So suggesting that you pause and try and do that, and then when you're ready, go on to the next slide. So I chose as an example one of the What Would You Do videos where a homeless man is denied service. So here I thought that the prejudice that was taking place was that the server made an assumption and prejudged the homeless person. Discrimination was present because he put that homeless person in a category, believing that all homeless people are, for example, unclean, in the case of this video, addicted to alcohol, and so on. And what is the oppression that's happening in this video? Well, that's a relationship. So there is an ever-growing segment of the Canadian population that is living in poverty, while the wealthy become wealthier in Canada. So we're introducing you today to a theorist. If you have not met this theorist before, his name is Paulo Freire. He lived in very recent times. And if you would like to just get to know him a little bit through media and images, there's a great introductory video that I've posted on the slide. So Paulo Freire was a secondary school teacher. In the early 1960s, he taught sugarcane workers how to read. And this was really important. He actually taught 300 sugarcane workers to read in a period of 45 days. These were persons who had previously been illiterate, and so they had been unable to vote. So learning to read, or literacy, was connected to suffrage, or the right to vote. And as a result, the government of the day instituted what they called cultural circles, which were support groups to help workers learn to become literate. Unfortunately, that only lasted for a couple of years. There was a coup in that country, and the military dictatorship took over, and Freire was exiled for 15 years from his country. But he returned in 1979 to lead adult literacy, and he is famous for his pedagogy, which he has written in multiple books, Pedagogy of the Oppressed and Pedagogy of Hope, and so on. Pedagogy of Hope is my personal favorite. So Paulo Freire makes a distinction between consciousness raising and conscientization. Consciousness raising involves the transmission of information. So the teacher tells the student what the student needs to know. The student becomes more aware. It's very top down. This was not the way that Freire envisioned his pedagogy and how he acted his pedagogy. He defined conscientization as an ongoing process whereby the learner engages in moving himself or herself toward more critical consciousness. But in Freire's model, the teacher and the student are equals and co-learners, so it's not top-down. And he saw that conscientization takes place through dialogue, through the sharing of experiences, and through acting on social justice issues, or what he calls getting involved in changing the world. There are many famous quotes from Freire that we could talk about, but one of his very important quotes talks about the fact that oppression hurts both the person who is oppressed and the oppressor. And here is one of the ways that he explains this. He says, dehumanization, which marks not only those whose humanity has been stolen, but also, though in a different way, those who have stolen it, is a distortion of the vocation of becoming more fully human. So to really get at this quote, to apply it to an example, if you think bullies. Someone bullies another person, and that is what Freire would call dehumanization. And this hurts not only the person who is being bullied, but also, in a different way, the person who is stealing that person's humanity. So the bully is also affected. And it impacts on the person who is bullied becoming fully human, or realizing their life, or living their life to the fullest. In week 1, Daphne talked about the terms equality and equity, and she said, equality is important. I think Socrates was right when he says that, equality consists in a similar treatment of same persons. But I want us to move beyond that in this course and look at the notion of equity. What happens when people or groups have been denied equality in the past? What we have to look at is how the laws must in some way compensate for those inequalities, and that is where we get equity. Equity involves privileging of those who were formerly oppressed. So that was just a great quote from Daphne that she said in one of the videos in week 1. So here are some synthesis questions for you to think about and to talk about in tutorial this week. Are you aware of any oppressions that exist in your everyday life? What are some examples of how your awareness has been raised around oppressions such as racism, sexism, and homophobia? What are some examples of how people can challenge racism, sexism, and homophobia in everyday ways in life? We are moving now to PBL Scenario 2, the other. We invite you next to engage in a PBL process in which you identify and actively seek out the knowledge and resources that will be necessary to fully understand the problem and create a solution to the problem. Be prepared to discuss your solution in your tutorial session in week 8. Social justice. Why is social justice so important in our society? And again, a quote from Daphne. I link social justice to democratic citizenship. In Canada, we are governed by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms give us all the same equalities under the law. Therefore, in a very multicultural, plural society such as ours, aspects of social justice and democratic citizenships are very, very important to our lives and existence. We suggest that you begin with human rights in Canada as you investigate PBL Scenario 2. See you in the tutorial. Thanks.